Rev up your engines!
Integral says, I just watched a video on boxers. It seemed pretty negative towards boxers in general, but you're mostly focusing on low horsepower. What's your opinion of the higher horsepower of the WRX and STI? Yeah, you can get horsepower out of them if you want. You can, but you can't get nearly as much as you can get out of a more modern engine. It can put out more horsepower than those boxer engines. And the more horsepower you get out of the boxer engine, generally, the more problems as they age they have with head gaskets blowing, and they have head gasket problems in the first place. So, you can buy one of those, and they are fun to drive, but just realize that you're probably not going to get hundreds of thousands of miles out of those engines before they blow, because it's an older design and it can't take all that extra pressure, and so they generally break over time more than a modern design will. Ellen Harvest says, hey Scotty, would you recommend an oil can separator for a 3.5 EcoBoost that would potentially void any warranty if a problem did arise? Thanks. It shouldn't void any warranty. All it does is it's an inline filter for the PCV valve. Now, don't even worry about that anyways, because if you do put one on and you got a warranty problem, just remove the hoses from the old one and put on the oil catch can to separate it. And then if you've got a warranty thing, take it off and put the original hose on. They're never going to know what you did. Always save the old parts. I always tell people that if they modify a car, always save the old parts, because let's say you got a classic car and the carburetor's garbage. Well, those old carburetors were garbage if they're 50, 60 years old, so you could put a brand new Edelbrock on. But if you do, save the old carburetor, because if you sell it, the guy might want the originator carburetor. Then you can just say, here's the original carburetor, take it and get it rebuilt and put it back on if you want. Always save old parts when you modify cars. It's always a smart move to do that. William Seagill once says, Scotty, what do you think could be causing a 95 Maxima engine to shut off while at idle at a red light? Well, there's a million things, but a lot of times it's just dirt and corrosion. I have a video that covers that. It's called Make Your Car Run Better with a Little Spray Cleaner. If you clean the MAF sensor and the throttle, a lot of times that fixes it. Now, if that doesn't do it, I've got another one called Finding Engine Vacuum Leaks with a Cigar. And if you blow smoke into the intake and you got a vacuum leak that sucks air, sucking air at idle will make it die out. Once you're going full speed, it doesn't matter if it's got a little vacuum leak, because the engine's sucking so much air, it can run fine. But when you come to a stop and you have a vacuum leak, that can make it conk out too. JJ says, my 96 Caprice is getting low oil pressure when it warms up. What should I do? It's a very good question. Oil pressure is very important. If you don't have oil pressure, oil won't lubricate your engine. It'll burn itself up. Bearings will go and it'll blow the rods. So first you got to find out, are you really getting low oil pressure? Sometimes it's as simple as you replace the oil pressure sending unit and that fixes it. If you actually have low oil pressure, if you're idling, your oil light comes on and the pressure gauge goes to zero. If you really have low oil pressure, the engine will start making noises. You'll hear it clack, 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 clack. And then when you rev it up and the oil pressure goes up, the noise will go away. If it does make noise, stop driving it. You got a serious problem. Either the oil pump's worn out or the oil bearings inside the engine. Because see, if the bearings go like rod bearings or crank bearings, there's a little gap, tiny little gap, a few thousandths of an inch. As they wear, if they get too deep, then if they're like 10, 12 thousandths of an inch, they take up too much space and the oil pressure drops. And that gets very expensive to do. But first thing on most of them, if they don't make any noise, change the oil pressure sending unit first. Because a lot of times it's just giving you false data. I see that all the time, especially on something that's as old as that. MDS 8168 says, Scotty, how do you quiet squeaky plastic consoles and other plastic-made interior parts? Yeah, I had a customer once. He had a BMW. It was a 318i, and it rattled like mad when it got all that plastic. And I showed him. I said, look, where the plastic meets the windshield, a lot of times that'll rattle. I said, you can even get little bitty pieces of plastic and cut them, or a matchbook, stick them in the gap, and a lot of times the noise will stop. And if it does work and you think that's unsightly, hey, you can buy some trim material and you could jam the black trim material in there and it would look okay. It'd be like it was trimmed out. If it's actually rubbing on something, a lot lot of times something like WD-40, you spray it on and then it won't make any noise because it's lubricating where it's rubbing. But most of the time it's because there's a gap somewhere and then it creaks because it's touching something. Heat heats it up, it expands, and then it makes some noise. And you can often jam in little pieces of plastic or paper to keep the things from rattling. Or if you really want to go pro, you can buy beautiful dash covers. There's many different types of dash covers for many different types of cars. And you can buy a custom dash cover, put that on. I did that on my own Toyota SR5 years ago. The dash was all plastic and it cracked. And I got a beautiful one that was molded and it fit right over the top. The old one, you just siliconed it in. You can always do that.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.